Hello, if you are listening to this, first off, I'd like to say thank you because that means that somehow in the deep void of the internet you managed to find me, which is fantastic. So thanks for being here. And this is the first episode of a podcast that I just decided to make, and I'm pretty excited about it. Decided to call it Gay and Anxious, aka if you asked me to describe myself in 2 words, it would be probably gay and anxious. I am gay, and I do suffer from an anxiety disorder, whatever you want to call it. I've listened to lots of podcasts, lots of audiobooks, and finally I decided, you know what, might as well make one of my own. One of the things that I think about a lot, actually, with my mental health struggles is Vincent van Gogh, who I guess what really inspires me about him is that he was able to create art while he was alive, and he's definitely, a notorious tragic soul, tragic person, and despite all of that, he created something beautiful. And because I can't paint and do anything with my hands, I thought that really my best outlet of expression would be just thinking and talking about things, which is why I decided to jump in and make this podcast. All right, so my plan and my goal for this podcast is to really just talk about things in general that I'm thinking of. More than anything, it's going to be almost a diary or a way for me to express myself. I think that as I've struggled with mental health, it always helps me to hear other stories from people. I think relating to others and being open and honest instead of just being stuck in your head is a great way to take some power away from anxiety and depression and bad thoughts. And this is my outlet for that. If it ends up helping other people, I think that's great as well. So I'm just going to play it by ear and really cover topics that I want to talk about. So I decided to make a podcast really on the whim. I went to Best Buy to pick up a blue USB microphone. I was thinking about making some political satire YouTube videos just for fun and thought that would be a good way to improve my audio. And as I was coming back thinking of being excited about this mic, I, for some reason, more and more thought that this might be a better use and this might be something that I could do with my time in a more meaningful way than trying to do short little quippy YouTube videos where I'm trying to be funny and talking about politics. I decided quickly off the bat that I probably wanted to use a pseudonym. So I used a random name generator, and the identity that I'm going to go by in this podcast is going to be Cole Stevens, KOLESTEPHENS. I did a quick Google, and there was obviously people like that exist, but on Facebook, didn't really find too many real people. I'm looking on the Twitter right now. And I found some people. So yeah, if you're listening, your name is Cole Stevens. Sorry to steal your name. The reason I decided to use a pseudonym is just because mental health issues are still controversial, and I want to be able to talk probably a little bit more open about some of my identities and thoughts, and the freedom that a pseudonym allows me is just to kind of shield my family and friends, people that I'm talking about, their identities, so it's not traced back to them. And I might be able to be a little bit more honest without fear of receiving judgment in my actual everyday life. And even though I want to highlight that the fact that I'm using a pseudonym doesn't mean that any of these things are stuff that you should be ashamed about, because I think mental health, the stigma is with it, it's really easy to feel alone and isolated and different from everyone. And I'm trying to, with this podcast, explain to a lot of people and just be another voice out there among the thousands that are talking about their struggles and trying to open up my thoughts to people, have them open up to me as well. And even though I shouldn't be ashamed of it and should be completely cool with having my identity out there, the best way logistically makes a lot of sense, use a pseudonym. So hello everyone, my name is Cole. And with my first ever podcast, what's going to be my video Killed the Radio Star, the first thing that I ever talk about. And I think that naturally the one that makes the most sense is my personal coming out story, because I think it was the beginning of me and my journey with my sexuality, as well as my anxiety, and I'll address that a little bit, and not even all today, but just as we go through this podcast. So here is my coming out story. Actually, before I get into this, I just want to talk about what it means to have a coming out story, because I've listened to a lot of them. And when I was coming to terms with things, I think that was a very popular YouTube video for me to look at, is different people explaining their own personal coming out stories. And I think mine is a little bit more convoluted than the average person's. And that made me worry a lot, because I wondered, I still every once in a while with anxiety struggle if I'm actually gay or not, and that'll be a completely other episode. But for me, I got some anxiety thinking about how, for me, my sexuality was much more complex, and it just didn't completely click for me in the way that it clicked for other people. And there's lots of different issues. I don't really know the full answer, but when I was listening to different coming out stories, they're good to hear, and I think it's a very cathartic thing to kind of just I think the coolest part about the LGBT community in general is that there's this shared experience of spending a lot of your life feeling different, not really fitting in, and finally kind of accepting yourself to be who you are. I remember the first time I was ever with a boy, I was telling him all of the stuff that had just happened, and I remember him staring at me with kind of this look in his eye, and I realized that everything I'm saying he's gone through in his life. And I think when you talk about a partner or boyfriend, or just someone who's also in the LGBT community in general, it's a really cool shared experience, and that's underlooked. And the reason I'm saying all of this is my story is my complete story. If yours is different at all, there's nothing right about mine. There's nothing wrong about yours. You're an individual writing your own story, living your own life, and everything that you've ever had happen to you in your life is completely valid. And don't compare yourself to me that much. Just let it be, because I did a lot of comparing myself to others and worrying when I didn't really completely match up to those other people, and that kind of held me back for a while before. In therapy, you just kind of end up talking about accepting yourself for who you are, being non-judgmental, and being open. So as I go through with this entire story of my coming out, just keep that in mind. It should be a fun, cathartic, shared experience. But if it's a little bit different than how your life has played out, don't worry about it. It's all good. And I started spending a really long time telling this story because I thought I needed to back up and really talk about my whole life. And then I realized I probably should split it up so it's not so long, because I think a lot of a gay identity, a lot of it revolves around how you felt as a child, and then kind of growing up in the coming out process is like reconciling everything from that, which will probably make a great episode in the future. But I think I should just kind of talk about my sexual orientation and coming out in general, and skip a lot of things just for the sake of this first episode. So when it comes to me being gay, the very first thing I can think of really briefly is I had gotten made fun of for being kind of girly, singing, not really fitting in with the boys in my that I'd grown up around in my neighborhood and at my school. So I had kind of been made fun of and been like the runt of the litter. And in my head, I had not. It turned into people thought I might be gay, and I turned all of that anger and fear into almost this hatred of the idea of being gay, and I did not want to be gay. And that was even before my sexuality had developed. So I had never really had a sexual thought or legitimate sexual attraction to anyone on my own. So before I was able to reach any conclusions, I was already being very shaped and formed by social pressures from around me, and the way I handled that was all of my anger kind of turned into the idea of being gay. So that probably is where I had a lot of internal homophobia, at some points external homophobia throughout middle school, which is not great, and I was a total hypocrite, and I'll admit that now that I can. But I think that's where my anger went. But the first time that I remember ever realizing that I might be gay was the summer between 8th and ninth grade. I was camping up north with my parents, and I had one of my friends with me, and we were on like the beach somewhere, and I remember there was like this like shirtless guy who was throwing a football, and I remember I don't know, it's like weird to describe it. In my head, like I did a double take because like something in my head, like I wanted to look at him. And at this time, a lot of times when I was like hanging around other guys, like they would do something similar where all of a sudden like they would just hone in on this girl that they all thought was attractive, and like it would just kind of be this like quick moment where all of a sudden they'd be like, oh dude, like she's so hot, and then in my head I was like, oh, I didn't notice, but I'll go along with it. And then when this happened with this kid throwing a football, I realized that I might have experienced with him what they had experienced with like girls in the past. And then I was like, and so like in my head, it was like this really traumatic experience because I viewed kind of being gay as something that I was trying to like prove everyone wrong who always like made fun of me for being gay. And it was like, oh shit, like what if everyone's right? And so it really weighed on me, and it destroyed me at the time. Because to me, being gay was something that was like so negative, and it was like if I was gay, there was something completely wrong with me, and that kind of that ruined the trip probably. And I spent so much time like ruminating and thinking about that, and then all of a sudden in my head, kind of being like, oh crap, I think I might be gay, like trying to like not think about it, but it was just constant. And then we got back from that vacation, and I spent like a month kind of going through the depression. And this is like a very common thing that I've heard of with coming out stories, is this depression of it was summer break still, so I was home alone all the time, and I would wake up in the morning, I would feel like shit about myself because I thought like, okay, I'm gay, and I viewed it to be something that was so wrong that it made me so upset to think about this. And I would like wake up, go downstairs, and feel like shit. I would be like on the couch feeling awful about myself. This is almost a comical at this point, but I started watching American Chopper because it was on like whatever every single day around the time that I woke up. So I was like thinking, okay, like manly men like making motorcycles together, like yelling, like daddy issues, like yeah, this is my show. Like so I was like watching this almost as a way to try to like condition myself into like not being gay. And I would get up, watch American Chopper, feel like shit. Luckily at the time, I could find some relief if I hung out with like my neighbors. So we would play a lot of rock bands. So I would invite, like text them or whatever, and then go hang out with them. And the brief couple of like times that I was like with them, usually it was like a good distraction. And the second that I kind of like came back to my house from them, this dark, crushing feeling came back, and go to bed, wake up the next day, and like it was repeat. Like I felt so lost. And then another thing happened like right after we got back from this vacation, and I had this really big, impactful, I think I might be gay thing. I started driver's ed. And the driver's ed instructor, the one that I went to in my town, he was an extremely conservative person, almost comical. Like he would tell us that Fox News was okay, but it was like still a little bit too liberal for him, and that the liberal media is lying to you. You need to listen to AM radio because it's the only thing that you can trust, because they're the only one that's like going to tell you the truth. And instead of actually teaching us how to drive, he almost every single day would open up this class with like a 15-20 minute lecture. And the thing he talked about more than anything was like the liberal media is telling you that it's okay to be gay, but like I'm here to tell you that like it's not okay to be gay. So for me, I had just been introduced to the idea with myself that I might be gay. And then as probably the most vulnerable time with anything in my head, I go to him, and then all of a sudden he starts telling me like if you hear someone say that this is okay, it's not a choice, like they're lying to you, like it is a choice, like you can be different, like you can change. And so like in my head, that's what I started hearing. So I like, even though I probably shouldn't have believed this crazy man, I grappled onto that. So I remember like having like really detailed kind of stress memories of me in the class. And there was a boy that I sat next to. I'll just say guy, because at this point I'm almost a freshman in high school. There's a guy I sat next to, and he was a football player. And like I was like, oh no, like would I like him because he's a football player? And then there's like girls who were cheerleaders, and like, you know, very stereotypical. I'm like, I feel like I should like find them hot. So then I kind of became like looking at the guy that was a football player, trying to assure myself that I wasn't into him, and then like looking at the girls that were cheerleaders and trying to like convince myself that like I found them hot. And I went through like this driver's ed stuff. That was also usually a pretty good distraction to go to this class and to do everything involved with that instead of being at home feeling like crap about myself because I thought I might be gay. But most of that summer it was just like this like weight that was almost always there. And then I kind of finally had a moment where it was like too much for me. I think it was the night before high school started. So the very last night before I was officially a high schooler, I like midnight, I'm crying. I say, this is enough. I knock on my parents' door. Like we go downstairs to the living room and I start crying and I like say like, Mom, Dad, I think I'm gay. And the first thing that they said was like, we'll love you no matter what. But the next thing they said, it was they really tried to like guide me away from it. So the conversation turned into the you're definitely not gay. I think part of that was nurtured from the fact that as I'm crying, I'm sitting here saying like I don't want to be gay, like sobbing, and so I think they were supporting what at the time was my wish, but then also I don't think they like even though they said they would love me no matter what, they in their head, you know, they prefer things a little bit different. So they were kind of that night was convincing me that like I'm not gay, like everything's fine, like I'm totally cool. I calmed down a little bit, and then I went to school the next day. I remember I have very vivid memories of this, and I think it's the way memories bind with trauma. But the first like 2 weeks of high school were like dreaded. So I would like the same depression was still there. So I would go to school. I remember just being in all of like the first classes, being super insecure with myself, thinking very low things of myself because I thought I was gay and I didn't like it. And I remember like occasionally like I would like think I checked out a boy and like I would get really mad about it, and then I would like force myself to like look at girls and like say like in my head like think like sexual thoughts about them as a way to like convince myself that like I was gay, like, and then I worked on it a lot, and I think eventually it started getting better. There are like some funny stories. Like I remember there was like a statue of David on my biology teacher's poster wall, like whatever bulletin board, and I at the time I remember I would like look at it and feel like super fear because I was like, oh my god, I think I'm attracted to the statue. Or I was afraid I'd be attracted to the statue, or like, you know, there's a boy in that same class who had like really good biceps and like really muscular arms, and I remember getting like super nervous thinking that I might like him. But as like high school freshman year kind of got on, I kind of had a good like fade up where I just ended up not really worrying about it so much, and then it became kind of this thing that I was it was like I had buried. It was like a goblin that I had thrown under the bridge, and I defeated it, and that I was worried about being gay, but I'm not gay, and like things are cool now. And I started with an identity after that of being straight. So I identified as straight throughout high school. I tried to record this a little bit ago, and I think I'm going too long because I need to stick to some main topics for the sake of the podcast, and I'm talking too much. So I guess from high school, the biggest takeaway is that I always was trying to text girls and felt like I had crushes on girls. First time I kissed a girl was freshman year. I did like a pet kiss. Me and this one girl who was my girlfriend at the time, like we like went to someone's bonfire and we played hide and seek. And when we hid together and by this tree and we kissed. And I was I don't know, I was on top of the moon. I just kissed a girl. It was great. Like, and then after that we broke up very quickly, and I spent just many years trying to get girls to text me, and because I was a scrawny, I looked like I was 12 when I was like 15 or 16, like no one texted, like no girl wanted me, and I just was just this endless cycle of me constantly trying to like find a girlfriend and like not being successful. School dances at the time were another big issue for when it came to girls, because every year we had homecoming. So all 4 years, like I had a date to that. So I usually texted the girl, and then junior and senior year I had prom. School dances at my school, like we danced very dirty. I'm 21 and I've been in clubs, and we danced dirtier at my high school dances than I've ever seen in an actual club of adults, which is very comical. But the social norm was that you had to find a date, and you would just grind on them. So a girl's butt to a guy's dick. I don't know. That's probably going to make me explicit on iTunes, but and so there was all this pressure, and I spent so many like times like I had all this on myself, thinking that I needed to have a boner from this, and I needed to be really liking this, and forced myself into that. So a lot of school dances was just a lot of inner turmoil where I just felt like I wasn't as attracted and into it as I should be, or as the other guys in my grade were. So like I worried about that all the time, and usually in my life I didn't have to worry about me being gay, but then moments of doubt came in through those high school dances. Moving on, I did more stuff with a girl. Junior year, I had a girlfriend who was like one of the first girls to actually like find me attractive after puberty, so must have done something right. And she was that first girl I ever made out with. And I freaking loved it. Making out was so much fun. I remember first time ever we did it, and then the next day at school, she was like going to come back over to my house again, and I just couldn't wait for the bell to ring because I was so excited to come back to my house and like make out. And so that was like a high point, because I was like, okay, like I'm not gay, like I'm making out with girls, I'm loving it, like things are peachy and fantastic. Then I ended up breaking up with her, getting back together a little bit, and then just kind of there's just like this awkward, weird pressure like during the summer where I just felt awkward. And I never, like when I was like with her, like her dad asked me what my intentions were, and I just felt like that was like, I didn't feel like the typical guy like that. I felt so awkward when he asked me that question, and eventually I just, for some reason, decided to break up with her. Then in the fall, we got back from school, and back to school, and she started dating this other kid. And then I kind of, especially seeing her with someone else, got like jealous of like, oh, maybe I made the mistake. And then like I like sweet talked her, and she broke up with him and started like talking to me, but I didn't want to like be dating officially. And so we talked for a while, went to homecoming together, and then like after homecoming, we like went to a party, and we on our way to the party, we like fooled around in this like abandoned Kmart parking lot, and that was like the first time I had ever done third base things. You can look it up. And then on the drive there, she asked me to be her boyfriend again, and I was like, okay, like let's do it. And so we were dating again, and then that only lasted like another month or so, I guess. And then after that, I kind of was at this point in my life where I felt like anytime I was with a girl, it didn't really work, or I just didn't feel like relationships were my thing. So I took this laissez-faire, hands-off approach that I was just kind of done trying to have a girlfriend. And if I were to give dating advice, I would 100% say, especially to like high school boys, if you want a girl to like you, just don't care. Because the second you are like trying to get them, can't get any of them. But then you give up and aren't trying to talk to them, and boom, they come flocking. And I don't know why this is, but I guarantee it exists. So dating advice to high school guys, just don't put in any effort, live your life, one will come. And for me, that happened, I don't know, a couple weeks after I had broken up with this other girl. I was at like an event right after, I think it was, I went to a musical that had just gotten put on in the fall to watch one of my friends. And then afterwards there's like this event, and there's this one girl, I'm going to call her Megan. I had a crush on her, and she was one of the girls that like in like middle school and high school I'd like talked to, like wishing to be my girlfriend. And then all of a sudden we talked like really well this thing, and then she invited me to go to the after party for the theater kids at like our local diner. So I'm there again. I show up a little bit late, and she had a seat like for me that she had saved, and like told me to sit down, and she's like laughing like I'm not that funny at my jokes, and like kind of touching my arm or like my leg like as she's laughing, and in my head I was like, what the hell, like, and then afterwards I had like a couple of people like text me like, what's the deal with you and Megan? And I was like, I don't know. Like I had tried to date her before, and I had always gotten friend zoned, and I don't know like what's going on, but for some reason, like finally she likes me. And then to me, Megan she's a gorgeous person even to this day, very intelligent. So from a friend standpoint, we're able to, even to this day, if I run into her, we can talk about anything for hours. So I decided like, okay, like this girl that I had always previously thought I wanted to date, like now likes me. So very soon after that, we were dating. So and she was kind of like my first and only like serious long-term relationship with a girl, because we would end up dating for over 14 months. We also got a little busy sometimes during those 14 months. So during that relationship with her, Megan and I were sexually active. I don't want to spend too long on this, but I started, when we first started dating, we started making out, and then very quickly realized that we wanted to lose our virginities together. So we planned it out, had like the actual time, and bought condoms when we were out, and we did it in another town so we wouldn't get caught. And then we finally come back to my house, and the moment it actually came, I was so nervous that I couldn't get it up, which was traumatic for me. And eventually we kind of got it to work, but then we ended up having to like cut it short because we got some blood on the this is really graphic, I'm sorry, but we got blood on the couch that we were on. So instead of I jumped into mode of my parents cannot find out what I was doing, and so we had to clean everything up, and then I drove her home. And then as I dropped her off, I remember kissing her goodnight, and then on the way back to my house, stopping at a stop sign, like putting my car in park, like throwing a little bit of a fit, like hitting my hands against the steering wheel, and kind of losing my composure, because to me, with the fears that I had and been fighting for years subtly about being gay, this was the holy grail. So if I could have sex with a girl, I've done it. I've beat homosexuality. Like this is all I needed, and that didn't necessarily work, and I had a really hard time like getting it up. So then I questioned things, but eventually like we ended up having a fairly healthy sex life. Didn't have too many issues. Occasionally there would be times where she would want to have sex and then I wouldn't, and then I would have trouble getting it up, and it was traumatic the few times that it did happen. And then again, that thought process in my head is, oh no, like what if I'm gay? But I really played it off and just told myself that it was just the pressure that was getting to me, and that's probably likely that's the reason this issue is happening, was mostly just the stress and the pressure. But either way, that's my history with Megan. The reason I bring that up, and I think it's a very defining part of my story, is when I watch other coming out videos or hear more about other gay people, especially my age, they never really had that. They usually, like the average story that I feel is a lot of people realizing early on in high school that they weren't attracted to girls, and then just kind of ignoring it, just doing their own thing for a while, and then eventually, like when they moved off to college, like they were cool to like express it. But the general theme was that they knew that they were gay in their head, kind of were like, quote unquote closeted. And for me, I did not have that experience. I was kind of almost forcing myself to be with girls, but I had over a year of a sexually active relationship with a girl. And now the confusing part is where did I go from having the sexually active relationship with the girl to I'm gay? And that is an excellent question, because it was a big part of my process. I was dating this girl from senior year, even the first semester of college. Usually about every 3 to 4 weeks, she would come to my dorm. I was having sex with her in my dorm. And then Christmas break came. We had a lot of sex during Christmas break. And then I was met up with some old friends who were shit-talking this other kid. And I stood up for this kid, saying like, he has like his own set of issues. Yeah, he can be a little bit of a dick sometime, but like I try to give him the benefit of the doubt because like some of the things in his life, like it's been hard. And then one of my friends said to me, after what he did to you, like you can still forgive him and be nice to him. And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, after the video he made about you, like when we were in high school. And I was like, video? And in high school, I was in a film class senior year, and he had friends in this film class, and he ended up making the friend's video for him. And while we were presenting all these videos, like in the film class, we made our own, and we watched them all. And I watched his video, which was called Kyle. And on the surface, when we watched it in class, it was about someone in the world who wanted to be the only person named Kyle, so they killed everyone else in the world named Kyle, and it was just him going around killing, like introducing a person named Kyle, killing the person off. I actually really liked the concept when I first watched it. I thought it was well written. It was very impressive for a high schooler to come up with that sort of storyline, so I even complimented him on it and didn't think anything of it until we come back to this Christmas episode, and I realized that this video named Kyle was about me named Cole, and it was really under the surface of what I thought was the plot was him talking about how much he disliked me. And so every single person that he killed in this video named Kyle was actually something about me that he didn't like. And so it was like this video of him killing me. And each person that was introduced in the video had some sort of vice. And I remember walking through all of it and realizing each one was like a statement about myself. And a lot of it was kind of like misunderstanding where I like was able to brush it off really quick, as he didn't know me like he thought he did. We didn't even interact. I don't even know why he disliked me so much. But anyway, he still made this video about me, and most of the video when I watch it was a lot of like misunderstandings where he like, from what he thought he knew about me, he was saying stuff. So I would like watch this person that he introduced, hear this vice, which I knew was a dig at me, and be like, okay, that's not actually true. Next one, that's not true. But then one of them was, this is Kyle. He's a self-absorbed, like psychological bully because everyone thinks he's gay, and he feels like he has to prove himself straight. And I realized that was, out of any of the things that he said, that was like oh crap, that might be true. And I think the reason he probably even made this video, and the reason that he must not have liked me, is earlier in high school especially, I was a very insecure person because of my fear of being gay, and I really hid behind a lot of sarcasm, and I was not always the nicest person. I don't think I've thought about this a lot, why he would make this video about me. I believe that I never went out of my way ever to purposefully be mean to him, so I kind of find peace in that. But either way, he kind of hit the head on the nail, where I was a pretty insecure person because I was always afraid that I needed to be gay. So a big part of my personality was this facade that I had put up of this masculine shield to kind of dig and hide off of that. So all of a sudden, hearing basically this truth bomb, I was devastated again. So all of these feelings from before high school even started in 8th grade immediately were back. My girlfriend had a shorter Christmas break than I had, so she was already back at her college, and then so I had about 2 or 3 weeks when I wasn't with her, and then I got that depressed again. Me as a person, I'm 5'11", and I was 5'11" back then too, and I got down to 109 pounds, which was unbelievable because I was so nervous I couldn't eat. I was constantly Googling, like, am I gay, am I not? Like, all of this stuff came flooding back. And I was dreading the first visit that my girlfriend had because I could kind of mail it in until then. But the second that she was here, like, and like I couldn't have sex because I was like so nervous, like then it was going to be a thing. So she came that weekend. It was, I think, Martin Luther King Jr. weekend of my freshman year. I kind of pretended to be sick, which wasn't untrue. I was not eating. That explained why I wasn't eating, and I did not feel good. And it was just pure nervousness. So I kind of faked like having this weird stomach thing, not feeling good the whole weekend. And then finally at the end of this visit, it was her last night at my dorm. I kind of think I broke down to her again, and I was honest with her, and I said, at the time, I used to always worry about being gay. I watched this video. I thought I was over this, but this video really brought things back for me. And I love you. Like, I think I said, like, I want to get married with you. Like, I want nothing more than to, like, have a family and live a normal life. But this is something that I'm gonna need to take some time to get over. And she was so nice about it. She was like, I love you too. Like, I know, like, everything's fine. Like, you just take the time that you need. And then she left. And then I immediately started kind of doing the same thing. I was in a dark room constantly Googling, like, how do you know if you're gay? Like, reading some of them thinking, okay, oh, shit, I'm gay. And then reading other ones where I felt like I identified with, and they ended up not being gay. And I was just driving myself in circles, going crazy, until finally I had a friend that was close to me talk to me, and I opened up to her about this, and she kind of explained that she had gay friends, her parents did, and that if I was gay, it would be completely fine. And if I'm not gay, that's cool too. But it was kind of, for the first time, she was just like, if you are gay and be cool with it. And until you can be cool with the idea of actually being gay, you might not be able to get over the fact that, or I stop worrying about it. So that night I realized with talking to her that I needed to figure out at this point in my life if I was gay or not. If I'm not gay, I needed to stop worrying about this and not live my entire life like with this fear. And then if I was gay, now I know, and it's early on in my life. I'm not married to Megan and have all these kids and like breaking up this family, which was another fear that I had of kind of becoming gay later in life and going through like a divorce, and that played heavily on me too. So I left her room and I thought, okay, like this is good. Like I'll be fine. I need to take some time. I'm in college now. I can, figure this out for real. And then I think I ended up watching basically gay porn, and then realizing that I was more attracted to this gay porn than I had ever been with porn. I might do another episode on porn use in general, but that in my head I was like, oh shit, like I think I might be gay. So I think a day or two later, I'm still texting my girlfriend, and every time I texted her, I would just, again, get really sick, felt like I was lying to her. So we FaceTime, and I say to her, I need to break up with you. I started crying. The first time I ever actually said I might be gay was that phone call. The word gay never came up when I was talking to my friend. Like, we were kind of talking around the word, and then the first time I, out of my mouth, said I might be gay was when I had broken up with my girlfriend. I told her that I needed to figure this out in my life. Right now, at this point, I don't want to end up doing anything wrong to you, cheat on you, like make you feel blindsided. So right now, all you need to know is that I need to break up with you because I need to spend some time worrying about myself and figuring out if I'm gay or not. So that was on a Thursday. And later that night, I had a scheduled dinner with my mom, who was on my campus for her work. So we had already had this planned out. Earlier in the day, I had broken up with my girlfriend. I had a meeting with someone from my high school who went to my college because he ended up coming out as gay when he was in college. So I talked to him, and after breaking up with my girlfriend and going to him, I was still super distraught, super scared. I thought, I viewed being gay as something that I had tried to fight my entire life, and I lost, and I finally caught up with me. I finally lost, and he kind of, when I was like telling him this, just kind of looked at me and said, "Why are you looking at this as a loss? Like, right now I have a boyfriend. Eventually I'll probably get married. Nothing in my life is going to change. I'll adopt kids. Only thing is, at the end of the day, when I come back from work, I'll be with a man and not a woman. It's not a big deal. You don't need to worry about it. You're fine. I promise you." And that made me feel great. For the first time in weeks, I was hungry because I didn't have the nervousness stomach decreasing my appetite. So after this meeting with him, walk over to meet my mom across campus for dinner, and I'm feeling great. In my head, I'm like, okay, I might be gay. Like, can't tell her now, but we'll get to this eventually. Like, everything's great. And then at dinner, one-on-one, she mentions that she saw on Facebook that, like, me and my girlfriend had broken up, and she really liked my girlfriend. So, like, I was looking at her face, and in her eyes, she was sad. Just because, again, she liked my girlfriend and was sad that she wasn't going to be around anymore. And that killed me. I was just sitting there eating and watching her face, and I was I went from scarfing down my hamburger and fries and being content with it to the nervousness came back, and I gagged on my food and I almost threw up. And she gave me a weird look. And at first I tried to say, like, come up with some lie about, oh, all of a sudden I'm not feeling that good, like, I'm sick. And then 2 seconds later I was like, what am I doing? And I said, Mom, I'm not sick. Like, I'm not feeling bad. The real reason that I broke up with Megan was because of that I was afraid I was gay and I needed to figure this out right now in my life and was the best thing for me. Her face dropped a little bit and she kind of made a couple of comments that she never thought this would happen. She never saw this in me, but she was going to love me no matter what. I was crying at this point. Like, the second I told her I was gay, I was sobbing. So we're at this public restaurant, and here I am just bawling, telling my mom that I'm gay. And then I think we left pretty quick after that and ended up talking in her car in the parking lot. I told her that I didn't want to see my dad because I knew my dad's instant reaction would be anger, and he would drive up to my college and try to talk some sense into me. And I told her that I wanted him to wait a couple of days at least before I talked to him. So that was on a Thursday. The following Monday, I was in class, and afterwards I turned on my phone to 2 text messages from friends of mine that were still younger than me and in high school at my hometown, and both of them asked me that they had heard this rumor that I had broken up with my girlfriend because I was gay. So the interesting thing here is I went from being in straight-up denial mode on Thursday, deciding to potentially stop being in denial and accept it if this is who I am, to just a few days later being almost out of the closet. So I never was really in the closet. And I think the definition of the closet is someone who knows that they're gay and just kind of hides it from the world because for whatever reason they're not ready to tell people. Sometimes, it's not a necessity. Either way, I never had that period in my life. I kind of immediately went from this denial stage to completely out, and everyone knew about this. So it was definitely before I was ready and had any definitive answers myself. My dad ended up driving to school, and we talked in like a parking lot. He had a huge list of things he wanted to talk about. He was really concerned and said some awful things about just me being gay in general, about not having kids, about STDs, which really kind of fueled my anxiety and made me feel wonderful about myself. To make matters worse, my girlfriend that I had just broken up with had some weird meeting with my family where she announced to them that she knew that I wasn't gay and that this was just like a quick phase because we had sex. So my dad hears we had sex, and in his head, I'm instantly completely straight, and he drove up a second time after having this meeting, and he was telling me to my face that I'm not gay, and gay people don't have sex with girls, and I just need to get over this, and it was just awful. And there was lots of issues with my family and stuff. Luckily, we're good now. Even at that point, they never cut me off or tried to cut me off. We always approached the situation from wanting to get closer from it. I thought it was an opportunity for me to be more true to myself and with this new sense of identity, be able to have a better relationship with them because I was coming to them from firmer bedrock of who I was. But this ended up really for me just being the beginning of everything. And like I said, instead of having a lot of time to sort this out on my own without anyone in my business, I had instantaneous pressure from the rumor mill of my hometown to my parents, and that put a lot of pressure on me. And I spent a lot of time, and even to this day, I worried that what if I wasn't actually gay, and I would listen to coming out stories. And one thing that's not as common is someone who their senior year of high school, they're completely sexually active with a girl for a long time. So that added to my worry, and I spent so much time being really concerned about myself. I wasn't really living completely out. It was a known thing with people from my hometown, for the most part, whoever heard the rumor, but I wasn't on my social media platforms. I was kind of nervous to commit to this because in the back of my mind, I had had a sexual relationship with a girl? So what if I was wrong? And that became a central part of my struggle as a person, because in order to make this work with my family and the world, I need to be confident and say, here I am, I'm gay, accept it. And for me, the problem was I wasn't sure enough with that identity to have that strong sense of, here I am, accept me, get over it. And that left me in this awful stage of like limbo and what ifs, and just kind of wishy-washy behavior. Even to this day, I am not completely over it. I still occasionally will get anxiety about what if I have made the wrong decision and I would be happier with a girl. I worry if I am attracted to girls, almost as when I was in high school and I worried that I had just been attracted to a boy. And that's, again, where this anxiety comes in. And I feel like this is a great way to end this first episode, because it transitioned from this journey ended with a lot of anxiety. But what I can say for a good conclusion, because we always like a happy ending, I have gotten a lot better lately from therapy, from trying to remain close to my family. I have a boyfriend. We've known each other for like 18 months, I think. I don't know. And we've been officially dating for almost a year now. So I've had a long-term relationship with a boy. I'm in love with him. He makes me very happy, even through all of my struggles with mental health. He is my rock. And I have reached a conclusion with my therapist that instead of worrying completely about if I'm gay, if I'm not gay, if I'm bi, focusing less on the labels. So even though I can't definitively say that I am 100% gay or not, I can say that at this point in my life, I am with a man. Things are going good. I feel more content in this relationship than any relationship before. And that's fine. If later on in life something happens and it changes, I can't control that. And that's something that happens in the future. And it's that worrying about trying to label myself in one box or the other that was worse than just the process that I'm trying to take now. And that's just live, enjoy it for what it is. And for what it is right now, I'm very happy, and I very much love my boyfriend. So that concludes the first episode. Very lengthy. I am a talker, as you can find out. If you made it this far, thank you. Hopefully I'll make a second one of these, so stay tuned for that. This has been Gay and Anxious.